shot and scores!
Chabot curled and drives and scores!
And the Senators win it.
Five apart, another chance, Madison scores! Drake Madison, oh, and got it. Green, Green again, scores!
Welcome to Sens Talk. My name is Brandon, and I'm your host. Now, before we get started, please follow us on Twitter @SensTalk_ and on Instagram @SensTalk. Now, in part 2 of this 3-part series of the Ottawa Senators season in review, I'm going to look today at the Senators defensemen of the past season. If you want to see my review of the Ottawa Senators forward roster, the whole forward group throughout this Ottawa Senators season, you can do so by following the link in the description below. I put a lot of work into it. It's a long video, but I highly recommend you watching it because I took a look at every single forward on the Ottawa Senators roster. So once again, I highly recommend you check that out. Now, the Senators goalie season in review video will be up on Friday or Saturday. I have not decided yet, but it will be up either Friday or Saturday. We're going to take a look at, obviously, Matt Murray, Hogberg, Forsberg, Gustafson, and Joey Decord. Lots to discuss there, to be honest, so stay tuned for that this Friday or Saturday. Now, question for you, the fans. Pause this video right now and comment below in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. Which Ottawa Senators defenseman impressed you the most this season? I look forward to reading and responding to all your comments down below, but make sure to comment and let me know who the defenseman on the Ottawa Senators impressed you the most this season. For me, it was probably Zub because he came out of nowhere. I'm looking forward to seeing your responses. As well, go to SeatGeek.com and use the promo code SensTalk. You'll save $20 off your first purchase. It's a great deal. Make sure to take advantage of that today. As well, we are honored to be sponsored by the premier culture magazine in Ottawa, Faces Magazine. Make sure to check out the new May issue from Faces Magazine today. Magazines to offer for free in grocery stores and select locations across Ottawa. And this month's issue features a cover interview with Senators legend Mark Methot. Also in this issue, Mark is joined with his co-host Brent Wallace as they discuss their new hit show, The Wally Methot Show. If you haven't checked that show out already, I highly encourage you to do so. Great show. The May issue also has features in Gord Wilson, Macon Chayka, and Alex Medias of the Ottawa Red Blacks. Also, do not forget to follow Faces on their social channels for great content, crazy contests, and more. That's @Faces Ottawa for their Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook pages. So the criteria for the defenders I'm going to discuss in today's video is either you started the vast majority of games, you were a late addition to the team like a top prospect, and or you were brought in through a trade and or the waiver wire. Those are the defenders I'm going to discuss in today's season in review video. Now, the first defender I'm going to discuss, it is the leader on the blue line for your Ottawa Senators, potentially the next captain, number 72, Thomas Chabot. Now, Chabot, in 49 games played, the 24-year-old had 6 goals, 25 assists, and 31 points. He also had a -15 rating, unfortunately, but he also averaged 26 minutes and 17 seconds on the ice, which is near the top of the league for defenders. Now, Tom Chabot has an 8-year, $8 million deal currently that's going to go through until 2028. Now, Tom Chabot, like I just said, 31 points in 49 games played is pretty good, but I think what's most impressive about Tom Chabot is 26 minutes and 17 seconds on average ice time per game. He's essentially playing half the game for your Ottawa Senators, and that is way too much. We can go in all day. We could have a whole conversation about why Tom Chabot needs to have more depth around him on the blue line, obviously. But Tom Chabot was stretched thin this year. I mean, really stretched thin. And I saw a lot of people complaining at times about Tom Chabot giving the puck away, creating turnovers, and not really generating offense at certain points of the season. I have to disagree because Tom Chabot, listen, he had turnovers, he had mistakes, but guess what? I didn't call him out for them too often. You want to know why? It's because he was being stretched thin. When you're playing half the game, mistakes are going to happen. So next year for Ottawa, they got to bring in some depth on the blue line for sure to help Tom Chabot lower his average minutes on the ice. But overall, Tom Chabot, a fantastic season once again. 31 points in 49 games played is very good for any player, let alone a defender. And at the age of 24, he's not even hitting his prime yet. He's going to hit his prime in the next few years, and once he does, expect these stats to go up even more. So the stats right now are all-star levels in my opinion, and the stats, considering he's 24, are expected to get even better. But of course, next year, a necessary need for the Ottawa Senators is another blue liner, because 26 minutes and 17 seconds on the ice for Tom Chabot, it's far too much. You got to cut down those minutes. If you cut down those minutes, you're going to stop stretching him so thin. You're going to give him much more, he's going to be much more, I don't know what the word would be, but he's going to be able to produce better and play better because he's going to have much less strain on him. Now, the next defender is, like I said, the the most surprising defender of the season for the Ottawa Senators, in my opinion, is Artem Zub. Zuby, as we all love him. Artem Zub, 47 games this year, 3 goals, 11 assists, 14 points, and a +4 rating. Remember that first goal of his National Hockey League career came in that 5-1 comeback win against the Toronto Maple Leafs. It was out of the box, a breakaway goal, beautiful move past Freddie Anderson. So Zub, at the age of 25, is already a rock star in the eyes of Ottawa Senators fans. Now, like we already know, he just signed a 2-year extension to stay on the team past this season. But for Artem Zub, it was a breakout year for him, let's be honest. Artem Zub was brought in as really an unknown commodity, all right? No one really knew about this guy. There was no social media presence. There was really no video on this guy either. He came over from Russia, and, when the Senators started the season, losing 12 out of their first 15 games, a lot of fans were like, let's get Zub into the game, let's see what he can do. And once we got Zub into the game and got him minutes, the team, of course, started playing better because Artem Zub is such a stable defender on the blue line. He is an anchor, to be quite honest. He can generate a little bit of offensive chances too, but he's a great defender. He helps players. Look at what he did with Mike Reilly. He developed him into a great defender. Look what he did with Erik Brannstrom. Brannstrom at the beginning of the season was struggling, and then Zub helped him develop his game further and help him produce more offensively by playing more defensively. Zub playing more defensively in that case. So Zub, he's not going to bring the wow factor unless he's on a breakaway because he's got great hands low key, but really he's a stable force on the back end. He's really valuable, and everything, the eye test, the advanced statistics, everything shows that Zub is a valuable player. So for Ottawa, Zub being on a 2-year extension is great news. It should help stabilize that blue line for the next 2 years at the very least. And for Artem Zub, for Sens fans, this was an A+ season for Artem Zub because we had no expectations going into the season. And once the season finished, all Sens fans are literally in love with this guy. So Zub, that was an A+ season. I can't wait to see you next year. Now, as we said multiple times during that Zub talk, let's talk about Erik Brannstrom. Now, Erik Brannstrom, at the age of 21, he played 30 games this year with the Senators, compiling 2 goals, 11 assists, and 13 points, and a +3 rating during that time. Now, Erik Brannstrom, listen, the season started off very rocky for Erik Brannstrom. In fact, he was scratched multiple times and even sent down at a point this season. But later in the season, especially when he was paired with Artem Zub, the tides changed for the better. When Erik Brannstrom was paired with a guy like Zub instead of an Erik Gudbranson or a Braden Coburn, and he actually had a stable defender with him on the pairing, Brannstrom's offense started to flourish to the National Hockey League level. Listen, we already knew going into the season that Erik Brannstrom had the offensive skill. We saw it in the AHL last year. It just had to transition to the National Hockey League. And to do so, he needed a defender that can actually allow him to do that offensive stuff. Braden Coburn and Erik Gudbranson were not those guys. Those guys were liabilities on the ice. I'm sure they're great guys off the ice, but on the ice, not so great. So for Erik Brannstrom, he needed a guy like an Artem Zub to help stabilize him and allow him to flourish and do offensive things without worry about losing or creating an all-man rush on the back end, because Zub, thankfully, will be there, unlike an Erik Gudbranson or a Braden Coburn. So for Brannstrom, the season started off very rocky, I'll be honest. Defensively, he looked disastrous. Offensively, non-existent. But as the season went on, confidence started to mount for him. He got a chance with Artem Zub, and they stuck for the remainder of the season, and that really saved Brannstrom's season, in my opinion. He had a pretty good season overall, but all I would say is going into next season for Erik Brannstrom, he needs to amass much more muscle. He needs to get larger. I know he's 5'9", 5'10". You can't grow magically 4 or 5 inches. There's no magic beans for that. But Erik Brannstrom needs to get bigger, okay? He's getting injured a little too easily. He's a little frail for my liking for the National Hockey League. And if you're at 5'9", 5'10", build some muscle, build some mass, and make sure players have to really hit you to get you down on the ice. Don't make yourself an easy target. So for Erik Brannstrom, this offseason presents a great opportunity for him to build much more muscle mass. And I think if he does so, he'll be a much more complete player, because right now he has the offensive instincts, he has the great skating and dynamic skating abilities, and he has Zub there to help him, in the defensive side of things. But for Brannstrom, on those one-on-one situations, he's often getting beat. So he needs to get bigger in order to stop those one-on-one situations. Now, the next player is Nikita Zaitsev. Now, I know a lot of you guys love Zaitsev, and I was a little critical of Zaitsev during the season. Listen, Zaitsev, he had an above-average season, in my opinion. He started off the season really, really hot, and then it tailored off during the season. But overall, Zaitsev was never really bad. He had a pretty good season, especially not on a Ottawa Senators team that was not exactly close to winning a Stanley Cup this season. So for Nikita Zaitsev, in 55 games played this year, had 4 goals, 13 assists, 17 points, and a -13 rating. At the age of 29, he's a UFA after the 2024 season. He is, of course, making $4.5 million this year, which means there's a big split about Nikita Zaitsev. One side of the Sens fan base loves this guy. The other side, they're indifferent, but they want to trade him because of that contract. For me, Zaitsev this season was solid. He wasn't great. He wasn't terrible. He was solid. He did his job, and he did his job just fine, all right? He wasn't flashy, but he was out there making big hits, defending well. I didn't really see him making too many bad turnovers or costly mistakes. So for Nikita Zaitsev, it was a fine season for him. In fact, he scored the game-winning goal in one of the last games of the season for Ottawa. So Zaitsev left a really good impression late in the season for me. They give him a good rating. And overall, listen, Zaitsev, he's not a flashy player, but he's solid. And this season, he was solid. So $4.5 million, it's a little much. But Zaitsev, what you're getting with him, it's a guy that you're not going to really see much on the score sheet. But he's going to do the little things, and he's not going to really turn over the puck or anything. He's really a conservative play for DJ Smith to put out there. Unlike in 2019 where he was a little iffy, turning over the puck here and there. This season, I really think defensively. Offensively, we've already spoken about this. Not the greatest, but defensively, pretty solid, I gotta say. The next player is Jacob Bernard-Docker. Now, he didn't play much this season. 5 games, had a +2 rating. He is 20 years old. He's going to be an RFA in a few years. Jacob Bernard-Docker, we need to see more of him. I fully expect him to make the Ottawa Senators roster next season out of camp. But for Jacob Bernard-Docker, 5 games, he looks solid. Hey, listen, he didn't really get beat on too many chances. He didn't look out of place, to be honest. And that's all you can ask for in a rookie defender. For Jacob Bernard-Docker, I'm watching him too with Team Canada. Crisp passes. He looks really comfortable out there with Canada. In Latvia right now at the World Championships, and with Ottawa too in those 5 games, look pretty solid. Not really, I can't really note any costly mistakes or bad turnovers. Overall, in limited minutes, he was pretty solid, and next year, I look forward to seeing him hopefully with the Ottawa Senators once again as he continues to develop and play at high levels. Now, Josh Brown, he didn't get into many games this year. He had 26 games played, had 1 point, that being an assist and a -1 rating. He is 27 years old. He has 1 year left at $1.2 million on his deal. Now, as you know, Josh Brown was traded to Ottawa from Florida in the last offseason. He's a solid 7th defender. Listen, next year for Ottawa, he's a solid guy to have in the press box that could be brought into the lineup for 1/3 of the games, for example. If you ever need a roster filler, Josh Brown is the perfect guy. He's a solid defender. He's not really flashy. He's not going to score points, as you can see, 26 games played, no goals, 1 assist. But for Josh Brown, he can play on your penalty kill. He can block some shots, and he can play around 10 to 12 minutes on the ice per game. A solid third pairing, depth defending type of guy. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, the next player I want to discuss, it is Victor Mete. Now, this season, he didn't play much for the Ottawa Senators. Thank you, you idiots. Montreal, Marc Bergevin, what are you doing? Why would you give up Victor Mete for free on the waiver wire? You definitely could have got something for this kid because this kid is a stud. Now, he didn't really produce much offensively. In 14 games this year, the 22-year-old had 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points, and a +5 rating. On the surface, you're like, well, Montreal, they didn't really give up much. 2 points in 14 games. Who cares? But you're wrong, because listen, Victor Mete, Ottawa, as you know, struggled immensely this season in zone entries into the opposing team's offensive zone. They struggled immensely, but guess what? When Victor Mete joined the Ottawa Senators team, his zone entries were flawless. Multiple times every single game, Victor Mete would flawlessly enter their zone, go deep either on the right or left boards, deep into their zone, around the net area, like deep into their offensive zone, and then pass it back to the point. That allows the team. Of course, Victor Mete draws back to the blue line, but that in itself is a great zone entry for Victor Mete. Him himself single-handedly creates offensive zone entries, and that is so valuable for a defender, especially a young defender that was for nothing, got him for free off the waiver wire. So for Ottawa, a team like Ottawa that was struggling for zone entries, Victor Mete was a godsend at the end of the season. Now for Victor Mete, he's a good player, second line power play unit type of guy. He can really, he's sort of like a Brannstrom, to be honest, that enters the zone much more effectively. They're a little different style in skating, But overall, Victor Mete, while Brannstrom has the hockey IQ and offensive skill instincts, Victor Mete has that zone entry and skating ability to create the plays themselves. So both players, Brannstrom and Victor Mete, bring their own strengths to the team. But with Victor Mete, the zone entries are invaluable. They're so valuable to this team. It's incredible what he brought and how much more fun the games were when he was into the roster. Listen, when he wasn't in the roster, the games were fine. They were fun. But once he entered the roster for your Ottawa Senators, the zone entries were flawless and offense started to flow. So for Victor Mete, sure, his stats don't say that he's a stud offensively, but his zone entries, I'm sure there's some advanced statistics that can prove my point here, say otherwise. Because he was easily, every single game, enter the zone without a worry. So Victor Mete, I love to see him produce more offensively next year, but if he continues to enter the zone flawlessly like he did at the end of this season, the offense will come without a doubt. So a good season for Victor Mete. Now Mike Reilly, last season, and honestly I think in the Senators defenseman season preview video, I specifically mentioned how Mike Reilly is a breakout candidate in my opinion. He started off the season not so hot. In those first 10 games he was a complete disaster, to be honest, like the rest of the Ottawa Senators. Now, at the end of the season, Mike Reilly turned himself into a solid blue liner on the Ottawa Senators and now the Boston Bruins. He's currently off to round 2. Good luck to him in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But this year, Mike Reilly, 40 games played, 19 assists, no goals, so 19 points and a -2 rating with the Ottawa Senators. Mike Reilly, once paired with Artem Zub, was fantastic. I mean fantastic. Listen, he's not exactly the prototypical defender, but he's a good, I guess I'd say a good two-way defender. Listen, I know many people view him as an offensive guy, but I like his stick work. I think he does really good work with his stick. He's not the biggest guy, but his stick work is great. He really is able to steal the puck from other guys, poke the puck away, and I think for a defender, if you're not the biggest guy, you have to find another way to defend, and Mike Reilly did so with the stick. Doesn't really trip many players too often. So for Mike Reilly, as you've seen in Boston, offense is really ticking there in Boston, of course, with that great group they got there in Boston. But for Mike Reilly, listen, I think he brings offensive skill. He's a decent skater. He does fall on the ice quite a bit. He loses his edge. But for Mike Reilly, I think his stick work is great, and I think he has a good hockey IQ. He's a solid middle pairing guy for any team, and on Boston, he's really helping them out offensively. The last defender I'm going to discuss is Erik Gudbranson. Now, Erik Gudbranson, I wasn't exactly too kind to during the season. In 36 games played, the defender had 1 goal, 2 assists, and 3 points at a -13 rating with the Ottawa Senators. This season for Erik Gudbranson was an absolute disaster. I'm sure he's a great guy off the ice. On the ice, not so much. In this same, I'm not going to discuss Braden Coburn. Braden Coburn as well did not have a great season. But Erik Gudbranson, listen, every single time he was on the ice, half the time he was in his own zone. Half the time the opposing team was cycling it. So for Erik Gudbranson, not a good season whatsoever. Costly turnovers, costly mistakes every single game. And we're seeing it in Nashville right now too, unfortunately. He's not playing too well there either. So Erik Gudbranson, he was brought in to be a big body to protect the front of the net, to push guys out. Didn't really even do that either. A lot of guys got into the front of the net and really put some work in front of the net. Erik Gudbranson didn't really do an effective job clearing the front of the net. Didn't do an effective job steering shots to the boards. Didn't really do an effective job at anything. So I did not really like Erik Gudbranson's season. Did not have a good season. I didn't like the trade going into the season. Guess I was right, because Erik Gudbranson did not have a fantastic season. I wish him all the best, but yeah, not a good season for Erik Gudbranson. So overall, for all the defenders, most of them had solid seasons, to be quite honest. Primarily the younger defenders had great seasons, but Erik Gudbranson was the outlier on that. He was just not good this year for Ottawa. Now besides that, that is it. Like I said, this Friday or Saturday, Sanders goalie season review video will be out, so stay tuned for that. But besides that, thank you all for watching. I appreciate your support, and I'll see you all then. Besides that, thank you all for watching. Make sure to like this video, share this video, circle stuff, and click the big red button down there, and subscribe to us. Do not forget to turn on the notification bell so you get notified whenever we upload a new video. Besides that, thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Go Sens, go.